everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about Handel's Aria con Variazioni. To start with some background on Handel, he was born in Halle, Germany, and was inspired by a visit to the Berlin Opera as a child. He moved to Hamburg and there was a regular opera company there, so Handel was able to have more musical experience, like playing violin with the opera house and teaching music lessons. He also learned a lot about Italian opera there. Meanwhile, Italian opera had been becoming very popular in London, and Handel moved there in 1710. The Aria con Variazioni, that is the piece that I'll talk about, is a piece for trumpet, but it's actually originally from the fourth movement of the fifth harpsichord suite. So Handel originally composed this work for harpsichord. This fourth movement, the Air and Variations movement, was named the Harmonious Blacksmith, although it wasn't Handel who gave it this name himself. Here's an excerpt from this movement played on the harpsichord. So the Aria con Variazioni is made up of a theme followed by 5 variations on that theme. The theme is shown here, and I'll play that so you can hear what it sounds like. We can observe. The theme is in G major and centers around scale degrees 1 and 5. It's a binary form, so we have the A section, which is here, this first line, which is repeated, and then the B section goes from here, rehearsal 1, to here, rehearsal 2. What's really important in any theme and variations is to be able to hear the sound of the theme in all of the variations, since the variations are based on the theme. So, in variation 1, we can do this really easily, and the variations get less and less similar to the theme as they continue. In the first line of variation 1, as you can see here, I've circled all these notes in teal, and these are all of the notes that are exactly the same as the first line of the theme. This forms a framework that's then embellished with the extra notes. So that's the first line of that movement. In the second variation, the theme gets even more disguised with a lot of arpeggiation that outlines the chords, which mostly focus on 1, G major, and 5, D major. This is what the first line of this variation sounds like. In the third variation, we continue with the same underlying chord structure, and we get a lyrical variation on the previous theme. We also get some really dramatic dynamic contrasts here. I like to think of the trumpet part here at the start of this movement as a sort of descant, just this really floating, vibrant melody, really the most beautiful core of the piece, I think. This is how I like to play this movement. contrast to Variation 2. Both have similar 16-note triplets arpeggiating the chords, but Variation 4 is slurred while Variation 2 was light and staccato. Here is just the first bit of this. We can use a bit of rubato, some push and pull here. Now, the final variation is this very virtuosic ending to the piece, really meant to show off with a lot of fast playing and stark dramatic contrasts. I'll play the beginning of this movement. So that was the beginning without the repeat, just to get a bit more different music in there. And then at the end of this movement, the climax is on that high B, so I really like to emphasize that and slow it down a bit before the dramatic change in range that leads to the final few notes of the piece. From the second beat of the last line here. So that's Handel's Aria con Variazioni. I think it's really interesting to track how the trumpet part from this piece comes out of the original harpsichord piece, as well as to look at how each variation comes out of the theme. My works cited is shown here, and thank you so much for listening.